Koko was recharging at the depot when she saw Brewster rolling nervously toward her. She was concerned. He was usually so eager to work and was always smiling. Seeing him this way was a rare occurrence. He rolled slowly up to her and stopped, looking around suspiciously.
Koko,
He began slowly.
I need to talk to you about something.
Sure, what is it, Brewster?
Try to keep your voice down. I know the depot's pretty empty, but I feel uneasy.
Well, okay, I guess.
I was talking to Speedy earlier today, and he let something slip that was really strange.
What was it?
Well, I was picking some boxcars up at the quarry, and he was struggling with a long train. They asked him if he needed any help, and if she should send someone to assist him.
No, I don't need any help.
Bellowed Speedy, angrily.
I've got it, V. I'm just fine.
V shut off without saying anything, leaving him in peace to pull the train. Brewster rolled up next to Speedy.
Why are you so upset? It's just a train. It's okay if you can't do it.
I can do it. Don't you doubt it.
Speedy shouted back.
They couldn't. I will, though. I know I will.
You couldn't.
Brewster asked, but Speedy seemed lost in his own thoughts.
He's trying to ride the train, and I guess it isn't uncommon for Speedy not to want help. But he seemed like he was afraid of not succeeding. It sounded like someone else didn't succeed. A chugger he knew, or maybe a few chuggers. I wonder who they were.
Is that it, Brewster?
Koko asked, a little confused.
That doesn't seem all that upsetting.
No, that's not the worst part.
Brewster seemed more troubled now.
The thing is, after Speedy left, I asked V what he was talking about. V? What did Speedy mean they couldn't?
Asked Brewster.
Who are they?
V came on and turned to Brewster.
Oh, he's just muttering to himself. That's just how Speedy is when he's trying hard. He says things like he knows he will to get up steam. Don't worry.
And then V was off again, almost in a hurry.
Brewster explained.
How is that any worse than the muttering?
Koko asked, still not understanding Brewster's concern.
Well, a few minutes after I left, I realized that she mentioned that Speedy said he knew he would. That wouldn't have been so strange, except for the fact that V was turned off when Speedy said that. V only activates at a certain location when someone calls for her, or at least I thought. But for her to say that, she must have been listening the whole time.
Now Koko saw the cause for Brewster's unease.
Does that mean she's not just listening when the lights are on?
I don't know, Koko,
Brewster tried to shake it off.
but it got me thinking. If she can hear all the time, and she hasn't told us, we might not know about other things. I've been thinking about this for hours, since I first spoke with her, and then I thought of something. Koko, have you ever actually been to Tootington?
Well, no, not really. It's just Harrison who goes out there for freight trains, and Pace, taking the high-speed trains back and forth. It must be a pretty nice place, though. There are so many engines out there. High-speed engines, visiting engines, and even those steam engines from old Chuggington.
That's just it, Koko.
Brewster lowered his voice even more.
I did the night run there once, remember? And well, I didn't see much but open track and a few depots. There were no sheds, there was no big junction. I don't think it really has any of that.
You think it's not true? You think that there is really no Tootington?
That or isn't nearly as nice as they say it is. Why do you think that so many engines come from over there? Even stranger, why is it that none of them are steam engines? If there are so many over there, and it's so easy to come over here, then why did they build Piper, a brand new steam engine? They could have just asked one to come over.
Koko thought.
What are you saying?
Speedy seemed almost scared that if he needed help, he would end up like someone else, or some group of chuggers that something happened to. Well, we would have heard about anything happening to so many chuggers unless...
It was before we were built.
Koko finished.
Exactly.
Brewster shuddered.
I don't think the steam engines are in Tootington at all, Koko, and I think they were the engines Speedy was talking about. I always wondered why there were so many spare parts in Tootington. Why wouldn't they just bring them all here? And why are they so scattered? Well, I think I know now.
Then Brewster leaned in closest of all, then whispered.
I think those parts are the steam engines.
Koko jumped at that, and then V blared on.
Are you two okay? I saw you from across the yard and you seem awfully quiet.
Yeah, across the yard, alright.
Said Brewster to himself.
Koko, don't you have a train to take? You better get to the station fast. Oh, yes. Sure thing, V.
Brewster moved out of the way, and Koko shot out of the junction towards the station. Then V turned to Brewster.
And how are you doing, Brewster?
Fine, V.
Brewster smiled nervously.
You know, Brewster, you've worked really hard today. I think you deserve to do the night run to Tootington again.
Brewster grew cold at hearing that, but he tried not to let his fear show.
Thanks, V. I can't wait.
Great! You better go back to the shed and get some rest. It's gonna be a long run and you need to stay awake.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thanks again.
Brewster backed up quickly toward the sheds at the other end of the junction. V watched him the entire time. As soon as Brewster got to the shed, he rolled inside and shut the door.
I don't know where I'm safe anymore,
Thought Brewster darkly.
I should pretend to sleep. For all I know, she can hear me in here too.
Brewster thought for quite a while with his eyes closed. First, he looked back on his jobs for the day. He had taken those boxcars from the quarry down to the junction. And, wait, was that all he had done? It was a long trip, certainly. And he did have to move them into a siding, but that was barely any work. Today had been one of his least productive days. He hadn't even done any work with the Chuggingtons. He had just done an odd job. Why did V want to reward him for that? The answer was there in the back of his mind all the time, but he didn't dare acknowledge it. The idea that it wasn't really a reward at all. At last, he had exhausted all other possibilities. The night run was some sort of trap. He'd acted too suspiciously when he was talking to Koko. Oh no, Koko! Had he implicated her in all of this? He didn't want to think about it, but one thing was certain. He should not go on this run. It was too risky. He would find a way out of it. He could ask Wilson to take it. V would never suspect him of being any sort of conspirator. He was so naive, so cheerful. He would never suspect V or anyone else of anything sinister. But V could always give him a job at the last minute and put Brewster back on the train. Brewster thought to himself until he figured out a plan.
There's only one way out of this. I'll have to leave Chuggington for the night. When I come back, I could tell Harrison he's really good at taking that train. He'll be too proud to give it up any other night. I'll go through the blue tunnel as soon as it's clear and hide somewhere secluded on the other side, maybe down a disused line. That's my plan. I'll be safe, at least for now. And if it turns out that I've been worried about nothing, then no harm done.
Then Brewster really did go to sleep. He woke up quite a few hours later, when it was dark out. He didn't want to risk leaving in daylight. People would ask where he was going. He sped out of his shed as quietly as he could toward the blue tunnel. He was just about to enter when he saw a bright headlight in the darkness, and the horn blared. He moved quickly backward as Harrison pulled out of the tunnel. And once the last car had cleared it, he stopped. He was still blocking the tunnel.
Brewster!
Harrison chuckled.
Where are you off to so fast? I was just bringing your train for you. You can take it from here.
V turned on right when Harrison had finished speaking and spoke to Brewster.
Do you remember the route?
Brewster was in trouble now. He couldn't tell Harrison he wasn't feeling well, or give some excuse like that. He was already out of the shed, and had clearly been going somewhere. His only choice was to take the train.
Yes, V, I remember.
Brewster responded, defeated. He took Harrison's place at the head of the train. Brewster started off with the short freight train. As he was leaving, V shouted out to him.
Have a nice trip.
Harrison followed it up, saying,
Good luck, Brewster.
Brewster didn't say anything. It didn't matter what he said now. They had got him. As Brewster got up to speed, he realized just how short the train was, and how light too. That wasn't a good sign. He figured it was empty. Harrison had already taken the night train. This was just to fool him. It did no good though. All of that training, which was comprised partly of guessing the weight of your load, was serving him well in that area. Then Brewster realized something. Harrison had come out of the blue tunnel, the very route Brewster had chosen for his escape. It made no sense that Harrison would come from that direction either. Usually, Harrison would assemble the train in Chuggington, not bring it in. They had to have somehow known Brewster's plan. But how? He hadn't told anyone. He had only thought it. Only thought it. Brewster shuddered when a new thought crossed his mind. Chuggers could control switches mentally to change from one line to the other. They used their built-in systems, their mind. V was connected to that very same switch system to change the points for engines when they couldn't for whatever reason. If V was connected to the switch system was connected to the minds of all the chuggers. So that's how she had known. That's how she had known everything. She hadn't just picked up on strange behavior. Or listened with the lights off. No. She was getting it straight from the source. Then Brewster realized he had been going for a lot longer than he thought he had. He had long since passed the station he had stopped at the last time he did this run, but nothing had alerted him to stop there. It was beginning to get light out. In the dark, Brewster could see a large yard ahead, with a few buildings. As he got closer, he could make out a big shed and some other smaller workshops and sheds alongside it. One of the workshops had bright lights flashing in it. A long platform stood beside the track, and as he stopped at it, he got a closer look at the buildings. They weren't colorful at all like the ones in Chuggington, nor were they disused and decaying like the ones of old Chuggington. They were all gray, dingy, and rusty. Some men were waiting on the platform, and still more were working in the yard. Brewster could see some chuggers sticking out of the main shed, but they didn't seem to be moving. They didn't even have the natural movement a chugger would have while sleeping. One of the men climbed into Brewster's interior, and the chugger jumped. He hadn't noticed the man until he had set foot in him. Brewster wanted to take off, but the man moved some switches through Brewster that the chugger didn't even know he had. Suddenly, his position adjusted itself, and he grew stiff. He could no longer bounce around on his bogies. He was in a fixed position. Brewster was scared. He had never been in this state before. Instead, the man moved some more switches, and Brewster began moving against his will. The man was somehow driving him from within, and Brewster had no control. They went over a few sets of points, and soon they were outside one of the smaller sheds. It was the one that he had seen the flashing lights in when he first arrived. Another chugger was being pulled out of the shed while he was being driven in, and Brewster let out a scream when he saw the departing locomotive. There wasn't much chugger left. The front paneling was gone. The upper half of the cab had been lifted off, and only the frames remained. The chugger still had his eyes fixed straight ahead, but not much else gave away his expression. Brewster gave out another scream. For this is what was out here, and no one in Chuggington would hear him. He was so far away from the depot. Brewster kept on yelling, but there was no point. He had been right all along. Back in Chuggington, it was now morning, and Harrison was refueling. Speedy was passing by when Harrison called out to him.
Koko's taking the next train to Tootington. She seems pretty excited to take over for Pace, even if it is only for one night.
Speedy looked disgusted.
How can you talk like that? To do that kind of business?
Don't look at me, Speedster. After all, who put those ideas in Brewster's head in the first place?
With that, Harrison purred away smugly, leaving Speedy with a very guilty look on his face. He rolled away to his next job, vowing to keep quiet while he did it.